Take a snapshot of this, mental picture. You got it? All right, because I'm going to erase it. Okay, by the way, just in case you want a reference, up here in the corner, I put some notes for you. 200 jobs completed, 250 calls ran, booked, 313 inbound calls. Now, let's move to the question of marketing. How much is this going to cost me? All right, so here's the thing that we have to keep in mind. Is every place that we generate a call is a form of marketing, and there's many places, right? Let me make a quick list up here on the board. Okay, so I made just a few items up here on the board. One is loyal clients. These are people that are going to call you, and you don't have to spend any real money with them right now because you've already invested that money. Something breaks, they're going to call you. You probably know how many loyal clients you're averaging per month. So that's part of the equation you want to take into consideration. Remember, we need 313 inbound calls to get 200 jobs. Chances are your loyal clients are not going to be at 80%. They're probably going to be a lot higher, maybe 90, maybe even 100%. To make things easy, I'm going to keep 80% across the board for this example. Let's say that we got 100 of our needed 313 inbound calls from loyal clients, which means we need to go out there and we need to generate 213 calls from somewhere else. If you've got a great social media campaign, you might generate some there, you might generate a lot there. Let's just say 20. You got a tremendous direct mail campaign, then perhaps another 80 calls comes from that. You have an outbound program at your company, perhaps another 20 from there. Phone book, let's say that gets you 20. That leaves us with, let me see. So that leaves us with 73 calls that we need. Now I want to stress that all of these areas are going to have different closing percentages, they're going to have different average tickets, and they're going to have different booking ratios. So some of these areas, your inbound phone call ratio is going to be a lot bigger. Low clients, you're almost guaranteed to book them. Direct mail, you're going to have a good booking ratio there, most likely. Some of the ratios that you might see a little bit less of a booking percentage might be things like Google. But don't give up on Google. Google's tremendous. It's on demand and you can utilize it very quickly. The primary thing that I'm stressing to you is you need to dig in and you need to find out what your actual closing percentages are for each one. Again, I'm going to utilize Google and say that we're going to need 73 calls from it. Now, in this sake of example, let's imagine that all of these calls, they're already handled. We've got our little clients coming in. We've got Facebook, direct mail, outbound calls, phone booked. These are all working for us. We've got a history with it. So let's say that Google, that's our one big variable. We need 73 calls from Google, and we might ask the question, well, how much is that going to cost us? Let's take a look at that for just a moment. So let's assume that out of these 73 calls that you book, your guys are still going to close 80%. So that's going to be 58 total invoices out of the 200 that you need. Assume that. Now, it might be different, but check your math, okay? But for this example, we're going to assume it. Now, for this example as well, we could assume that you're going to be booking at 80%. But you know what? You're probably not. Let's just look at something that's probably more realistic for Google, okay? What we find with Google is that the average booking ratio, even with pretty well-trained CSRs, is somewhere around 65 to 55%. Maybe you're doing better than that. If you are, let us know and share with us how you're doing it. But what we're finding is that most people are coming somewhere around this number. Now I'm going to use 60% as my number just so we're on the same math. 122 inbound calls needed from Google to generate 73 booked calls to generate 58 invoices. Okay? Now the next question that you might ask is, well, how much should I be investing for that? Well, the answer is it varies on many different scales, right? And that's part of why you got to dig into your marketing. Depending upon where you're at with your company, you might be averaging somewhere around 10% cost of sales. Now, most companies that are averaging 10% cost of sales are typically finding that the new acquisition of clients, and Google would be a new acquisition of client, can be 20, even 30%. Now, you might be asking, can you afford it? Well, it depends on how healthy these other areas are. Now remember, I said on average we're going to get 80%, 80%. If you're depending a lot more on Google calls, your averages are going to be less than 80% conversion. But if you've got a lot of these loyal clients and people that are using you for other reasons, it's going to be higher. I hope that's not confusing. But the bottom line is, in most cases, and this is a fairly good rule of thumb for you to keep in mind as well, it's going to be a 60% conversion. So 122 inbound calls at 60% close ratio from your CSRs is going to get you 73 calls. 73 calls at 80% for your text is going to generate you 58 invoices. Now the question becomes, if I'm investing somewhere about 20% of my total money, what should I be spending per invoice? Well, then you can come over here to your $500 average ticket, and per invoice you're going to see that 20% per invoice is going to be about $100 per. So oftentimes in new client acquisitions, it's not uncommon that your cost per new client in an area like Google could be 20% of the sales. And at a $500 average ticket, it's $100. Maybe yours is higher. Look at your average ticket. One of the best things that you can do to drop this down is actually to raise your average ticket. Raise your average ticket or increase your closing percentages. Here's a short example of how all this works. I hope that makes sense to you. This can be costly, and it can even be more than that. So I just want to point out to you, go back to the beginning of the video, or maybe I'll leave it with an image here. That funnel, when they hit the bottom of the funnel, that means they've done business with you. You want to recycle them. You want to put them into your system through email, through phone call campaigns, through scheduled service agreements, so that you don't have to pay $100 again to get them back on the books. Hey, this is Todd Liles with Service Excellence Training, helping you understand your marketing a little bit better. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. If you see this somewhere on Facebook or on the website, put a comment down below, and I'll do my best to get back with you in an appropriate amount of time. Thanks, and have a great day.